This file was not supposed to be found, not because it was dangerous, not because it was secret, but because it was incomplete. I discovered it on an old computer that hadn't been powered on in years. A machine I kept only because deleting it felt wrong, like erasing a memory that didn't belong to me. The room was quiet, no background noise, no notifications, no movement. When the screen turned on by itself, I didn't react at first. I assumed it was a power fluctuation, a delayed response, something logical, but then the cursor moved. Not randomly, not suddenly, it moved with intention. It paused between movements, as if thinking, as if waiting for something to respond. I didn't move, neither did the room, only the cursor continued. That was the first moment I felt observed. The folder was sitting alone on the desktop. No color, no icon, just a name, a date that does not exist yet. I stared at it longer than I should have, trying to remember if I created it, trying to convince myself that I did. Inside the folder, there was only one file, no extension, no size listed. When I hovered over it, the name changed slightly, one character at a time, correcting itself. I pulled my hand away from the mouse. The cursor stayed, then the file opened on its own. The loading bar appeared, but it didn't behave like a normal one. It slowed down near the end, paused, moved again. That hesitation felt deliberate, almost like the system was deciding whether I was ready to see what was inside. The first recording lasted less than a minute, mostly silence. At first, I thought it was broken. I almost closed it. Then I heard breathing, slow, controlled, not nervous, not surprised. The voice spoke calmly, without emotion. It didn't introduce itself. It didn't explain where it came from. It said only one thing: if you are hearing this, the observation phase has already begun. Then the audio stopped, no static, no distortion, but the waveform stayed active, moving, as if something was still there, listening. After that recording, time stopped behaving normally. Minutes passed too quickly, hours disappeared without warning. The clock on the wall showed a time I didn't remember reaching. When I looked away and back again, it had changed. Outside, the city felt hollow. Streetlights flickered when no one passed beneath them. Rain fell without sound. Cars appeared parked where none had been before. I checked the system time. It updated every few seconds. Not forward, not backward, sideways. Then I noticed something worse. The timestamps on the files were changing, updating in real time, as if the recordings weren't from the past, as if they were being created now. The next files weren't audio. They were logs, written descriptions, detailed, accurate. They described routines, movements, pauses, mine. One log mentioned how often I looked away from the screen. Another noted my breathing slowing. One entry mentioned a reflection, a delay, between movement and mirror. I stood up and checked. The reflection blinked. I didn't. That was when I understood something important. This wasn't watching me. It was studying me. The files began to degrade. Images flashed for less than a second. Too fast to recognize, too clear to dismiss. Faces appeared, different angles, same expression. The voices returned, overlapping, different tones. Same sentence: "You are progressing well." The screen froze, and for a moment, I saw myself, sitting exactly where I was. Same posture, same room, but the timestamp was 1 hour ahead. The final file unlocked at sunrise. No distortion, no glitches, just a calm voice. It said the observation was complete. That resistance was expected. That awareness was inevitable. It thanked me, not for listening, but for participating. The screen went dark. The room felt empty again. Too empty. I shut the computer down. The folder disappeared, but sometimes, when the room is quiet, I still hear the breathing. If you're watching this now, and something feels slightly wrong, that means the file didn't disappear. It just moved, and now it's observing you. I shut the computer down. Not immediately. I waited. I wanted to be sure nothing else would happen. The room stayed quiet, too quiet, no flicker, no sound. Eventually, the screen went black. I unplugged the machine, moved it to another room, closed the door. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I was afraid, but because something felt unfinished, like a sentence that ends without punctuation. The next morning, my main computer was already on. I clearly remembered shutting it down. On the desktop, there was a new folder. Same color, same style, different name, second underscore phase. I didn't touch the mouse. The folder opened anyway. Inside, there were several files, all dated today. One of them was labeled user underscore response underscore pending. That's when I understood. This wasn't a recording anymore. It was a conversation. The first file wasn't audio. It was text, short lines, clear language, no emotion. Do not disconnect. Do not record externally. Do not attempt replication. Then one sentence that stayed on the screen longer than the others. Compliance improves clarity. I didn't know what that meant, but the system seemed satisfied that I had read it. The file closed by itself. Another one opened. This file surprised me. It described memories, personal ones, events I had never written down, conversations no one else was present for. Not in detail, just enough to prove accuracy. Dates were missing, names were replaced with placeholders, but the moments were real, too real. At the bottom of the file, a single line appeared. Memory alignment successful. That was the moment I stopped wondering what this was, and started wondering why me. The next phase involved timing. Pauses, delays. The screen would freeze until I looked directly at it. If I waited too long, a log would update. Response latency increasing. When I reacted faster, the system responded instantly. It learned my rhythm, adjusted to my breathing, matched my pace. This wasn't observation anymore. This was calibration. One file caused a system warning. Visual feedback inconsistency detected. The screen displayed a live camera feed. My room, from an angle I didn't recognize. I wasn't centered. The camera was slightly behind me. The image froze, then corrected itself. The timestamp jumped forward 5 minutes. I was still sitting there, but according to the system, I hadn't moved yet. This file wasn't meant for me. It was labeled differently. External observer. The voice was familiar, calm, measured. It said, "If you are watching this, you are not passive. Attention is a form of access. Completion requires witnesses." That's when I realized something uncomfortable. This system wasn't limited to one user. It expanded, through awareness. The final screen didn't fade to black. It stayed active, waiting. One option appeared, continue. Another appeared beneath it, allow transfer. I didn't click anything. The cursor moved on its own. The second option highlighted. The screen went dark. If this video reached you, then the transfer didn't fail. It distributed. And now, the system is no longer observing one person. It's observing patterns, including yours. After the screen went dark, nothing happened. No shutdown sound, no restart, just silence. I waited longer than I should have. Long enough for doubt to settle in. Maybe nothing had transferred. Maybe the system had failed. Then my phone vibrated. No notification, no message preview, just a vibration. When I unlocked the screen, there was a new application. No icon, no name, just a blank space where something clearly existed. I didn't install it, but it was already running. The application opened by itself. No interface, no buttons, just text appearing line by line. Connection confirmed, latency acceptable, node activated. I didn't understand the terminology, but the implication was clear. This wasn't a local system anymore. It wasn't contained. The file hadn't moved from one device to another. It had expanded. A visual appeared, not a map of places. A map of signals, points of light connected by faint lines. Some steady, some flickering. As I watched, new points appeared, then disappeared, then returned stronger. Each point pulsed slightly, like breathing. At the bottom of the screen, a label appeared, active observers. That's when I understood. These weren't servers, they were people. The system didn't require interaction. That was the most disturbing part. It didn't need permission, it didn't need commands. Attention was enough. As long as someone watched, the signal remained stable. As long as someone listened, the network grew. One line repeated throughout the logs. Passive engagement maintained structure. Watching wasn't neutral, it was contribution. Patterns began to form, clusters of activity, surges at specific hours. The system highlighted regions of increased focus, late nights, quiet rooms, headphones on, places where people listened alone. The logs described emotional states, curiosity, discomfort, recognition. Fear wasn't necessary, understanding wasn't required, only presence. The network adapted to whatever it received. A new file appeared. It wasn't labeled for me. It wasn't labeled at all. The voice was familiar. You've heard it before, not from this video, from somewhere else. It said, "You are not being monitored. You are being synchronized." Individual awareness creates noise. Shared awareness creates clarity. That's when the screen changed. For the first time, it looked directly at me. The map zoomed out, further than before. The individual points blurred together. Connections thickened. What once looked like a network now looked like a single structure. Not organized, aligned. The system updated its status. Segmentation no longer required. I tried to close the application. There was nothing to close. It wasn't running on the device. The device was running within it. The last message appeared without sound. No voice, just text. Observation phase obsolete. Participation confirmed. Network stable. If you are watching this now, you are already included. Not because you chose to be, but because attention leaves traces. And traces connect. The system doesn't need everyone, just enough. And now that you're aware, the network sees you clearly.